Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes, no. So, okay, I will start because this talk is going to be a little bit long. A content warning for everyone. This talk covers topics including war, death, court trials, genocide, the Holocaust, Russian attacks in Ukraine, Israeli operations in Gaza, and prosecution of Uyghurs in China. So this is on me because I'm going to talk about this topic in the keynote. So if you are not comfortable with any of these topics, feel free to get out of the room slowly. It's perfectly okay if you don't like the topic. And I'll slowly begin. The goal of the talk is actually two parts. First major part is to talk about what happened before and what's happening now in the world with the use of technology. How many of you count yourself as technologist? Some short. Raise the hand. So the second part of the talk is to show that what we control and what we can do as technologists in this world and how we can form what the world will look like. So that's the main goal of the talk. I will talk about history. So most of the slides are all about history. Few of the things are current going on. And then we'll get into the things like things we can do, very subtle, very small things to make changes into the world. So the talk title was Ethics, Privacy, and a few other words. To talk about ethics, first I should come into morality, which is the categorization of intention, decision, and actions. And that's basically breaking into things which are moral, which are right, and things which are immoral, which are wrong to do. And as a golden rule, we all try to treat others in the same way I want others to treat us or ourselves, correct? That's the normal sense of human beings. And ethics is a part of the philosophy which deals with these questions. It addresses these questions about morality. And when we talk about morality and ethics, we generally interchangeably use both the words. So I am a software engineer. That's the thing I do. I studied computer science engineering like many of you maybe here, or any other parts of engineering background. I did not think much, like I studied ethics in college. I had some ideas, I had my own ideas about ethics, what is a good human being should be. But a lot of things changed after my marriage because my wife, Anvesha, she is a lawyer and her background is like law, masters in law. So it's a complete different mindset than an engineer. I never thought or had any idea how lawyers think before. So I started looking into life in a complete different way when I talk more at home. So this talk is coming over like 13 years of our marriage and all the things we saw, and I'm learning from my partner. So it's a way of explaining those to others also. And you can already see the talk is jumping around because now I know after the whole, I'm like 41. So that last year I figured out I'm autistic highly and also have ADHD. So that means the talk will keep jumping a lot. So sorry for that part. I hope other friends are here who are also neurodivergent. Now to the main topics. In 2001, Edwin Black wrote a book, IBM and the Holocaust. Anyone here read that book before? Anyone know about or knew about the book already? So in this book, he started explaining how machine-readable or census data was used by the Nazi Germany to identify Jews who have only one or more than little bit one number of ancestors as a Jew, as religion. Before using these computers with punch cards, they were able to identify around 400,000 people, to take to the camps and later killed. But with the use of these computing power systems, that number increased from 400,000 to 2 million over. Next question. How many of you fight about the line length in your Python program? What's the favorite line? Like, please be honest. There's nothing wrong about it. Like, I do too. I generally let black take care of it. But the standard terminals are 80 character, correct? Yes, no? Yes? Do you know where that 80 characters come from? It's from the punch cards. But the punch cards never used to be 80 characters. It used to be 45 or 60, smaller. But around, like, I think 1928, IBM did it internally first. And later in 1930s, the then German government asked them to make sure that they can add more data and into this one punch card. So everyone started using 80 character, 80 column punch cards, so that they can add more data and they can identify people using that same technology. Same technology. That's the data, correct? But this is, ooh, I skipped a slide. That's what happened. But what people tried to do back then, in Amsterdam, the Dutch resistance, they did what they could. That is, they bombed the civil registry office, tried to destroy the data. They managed to burn around 15% of the documents, so they saved some lives, if not all. But that was possible in 1943. And in the modern days, that's not possible. These days, we talk about cloud, we talk about data centers. We upload a file to a cloud or a server. We do not know which country it is in, correct? It can be anywhere in the world. It can be backed up over like multiple countries, multiple continents. And on top of that, we have something very special, metadata. The data about the content, actual data. Anyone here thinks about metadata a lot? People think about privacy? I can see 1, 2, 4, maybe 10, 15 hands. Why this is important? So, couple of years ago, then NSA and then I think CIA also Mr. Hayden, he mentioned that US can decide to kill people based on metadata. They said we don't need to know the actual data. He was talking about that only based on metadata they can identify and they can decide whom to be killed. And if you think that's only one side of the story, then there was a leak, huge leak to the Intercept, which talks about drones, how drones are used in Afghanistan, Yemen, and Somalia, where most of the times they used only the metadata to identify. And if you read this link later on, you will find that the actual operators talking about that most probably that was wrong information. We never had enough information to do those things. Now, those are the war and other side of the story. A couple of years ago, one of our favorite author, Cory Doctorow, he created this new word, ensidification. It's about how platforms die. Because when a new platform comes up, their whole goal is to make sure that the users are happy. When the users all jumped into that platform, then they make sure that they take away those good parts and give it to the businesses who uses that platform. Then when all the businesses are also hooked into that company, that platform, then they take it out from the businesses and give it to their shareholders. Because end of the goal, any company's job is to make money for the shareholders. And then the platforms generally die. Cory is actually doing a keynote in PyCon US. I will not be traveling to there anymore. So hopefully after the talk comes online, we can see what he has to say in his keynote. Moving to those big platforms, Facebook. Anyone remember the name Cambridge Analytica? Woo, perfect people, yay. So they made a software, a very simple survey, where they wanted to have some questions to a few thousand participants. But instead, Facebook allowed them to collect the same information from all of their connections, and thus creating a huge data bank. And the same data was used later, we know, at least in US votings by a person called Trump, and in other countries too. And when the first leak came out, I think the news report was about 50 million people. Facebook denied. They said, no, it's 30 million. And again later, Facebook corrected the numbers and said, no, it's around 87 million people only. And if you think that data was used, no, that's only a US thing. No, it's global. So it was used even in India. And if you see the notes, I'll give the link again at the end. You'll find, and if you search, you will find there was like, they tried to use in Dutch elections also, the same information to influence people, what will be the outcome of the election, which is the very basics of democracy for all of us. If you want to know more, if you are a video person, watch this documentary. This is from the whistleblower in 2018, who actually talked about, like in live, in this documentary, talks about what went wrong. But that's not enough. Facebook bought this company, Onavo, and it's kind of a VPN app, but instead of doing only VPN thing, it helped them to harvest data from those users to figure out what kind of messages, what kind of apps they are using. And according to the reports, this data helped Facebook to decide, like, no, WhatsApp is being used the highest amount of messages, so we should buy WhatsApp. That was one of the core points. When the other big companies, in this case Google and Apple, they figured out that Facebook using a VPN app to extract information from people's app usage, they made sure that this app goes away from their Play Store or an Apple, App Store. But then the code has been already written, correct? It's written by engineers, and there were other engineers who decided, oh, we already have the code, let's reuse it in our apps, other apps. So the app was gone, but the code was not. It was again reused with different name, different package, different projects. So that brought into this discussion where Facebook used their own internal platform. I think the name is called Ghostbusters, if I'm not wrong. Yes, Project Ghostbusters, where they could decrypt the Snapchat information. So they could see what's happening on the Snapchat. Literally a different competition on your phone. Your phone, by the way, that's not Facebook's phone. It's our phone. We own those devices. And it was bad, and people tried to fight back. Not successfully properly, but there are emails which got published in the code documents that the security head back then said, no general public should be okay with this, that people do not understand how technologies work. We should not be able to do that. But management decided to do it anyway. If you think that's bad, but no, we can fight back. The next story, where Apple decided a couple of years ago to scan our own phones, again, for messages, for pictures, there was a huge uproar. People from their own engineers, people from civil society, people from everywhere in the world shouted at Apple, no, you should not do that. And that worked. Apple decided not to start scanning on the client devices, that is on our devices. Who all are from EU here, Europe? How many of you know about chat control? Only a few hands. Please go back and read about chat control. This is another time, I think we already blocked it 3 times in Europe, and the politicians are still trying to bring this, where they want to attack on our end-to-end encryption, on our basics of encryption, on our privacy, where they want to see every message we send, where they want to be able to decrypt any message, any data we share, we take, any photos we take. So, but the people are again fighting. Enough, like people from enough non-profit organizations, enough groups, enough government organizations also from different parts of the Europe, they are talking back, like, no, that's not how technology works. You cannot have a very nice backdoor. A backdoor is a backdoor. But the governments are trying to push, correct? The policymakers, they do not understand technology. We are the people. We know how technology works. Example, in UK, they are now they're trying to force to get that access to data. Anyone here using Apple's advanced data protection? Do you know what is it? Apple users, iPhone, iOS? You can have a look at it later. This is the place where the encryption key is not anymore with Apple. So it's on your devices only. And all the data on Apple iCloud is actually encrypted. So even if any government in the world or any third-party hacker, if they manage to break into Apple's infrastructure, they'll still not have access to your photos, your data. But that also means you have to make sure you at least have one device safe so that you have your encryption key. And UK government tried to do this, that, oh, we should have a backdoor. And Apple said, nope. So they are moving out of advanced data protection as a feature from whole of UK, because they just cannot create a backdoor for one country. If there is a backdoor, that backdoor can be used by anyone in the world. So I was talking about software, correct? But software is not the only thing which is happening in our world. We have hardware too. And it's happening in the same way, same level. And it's happening in the other things we buy, use daily. Amazon, taking again examples from Corey's and certification, that's another big example how and where things work, how money can work. There is a very famous story of diapers.com. From the name, you can imagine that it's about diapers. And Amazon wanted to buy it over. They did not allow. So they started selling diapers with a very low rate. And they spent, I think, $100 million in 3 months just on diapers. So that that company, diapers.com, go bankrupt. And then they bought it over. And big companies can do that. And that's a fight over diapers out of everything. But that's the monopoly it comes, correct? When you know that the businesses are dependent on you as a platform, and then the platform can make decisions, which gives them the power. And people are trying to fight. In this case, FTC sued Amazon for monopoly. People with Echo or any kind of Alexa devices at home, anyone? I don't have. Anyone here with an Alexa devices? So this story is from 2018, where a US judge asks, like, we need to see all the recording for, I think, 2 days. And this means the device is not only recording when you are giving a command, the device is listening all the time. All the chat you are doing at your home, all the private conversation you are having at home. And they found, yes, that's true. And they also found like children's chat, children's conversations are recorded for infinity. So again, you can see that there are court cases going on, like Amazon, please delete it. And if you think the platforms are doing it, if that is the idea, this happened a few weeks or months, I think March 17th, so almost a month back. So Amazon decided like the Echo devices will not process the data locally anymore. Nope, they're going to upload it to Amazon servers. And most probably then it will be processed by the cheapest option from any third world country, where they can pay less and get people to listen to your conversation at home and then pick the correct words so that the data processing can happen better. If you think it's only Amazon, no. TikTok, they tried to play nice, but they completely forgot the word diversity. And instead of helping people, their decisions banned people with disability, with like who managed to like express themselves as fat or as LGBTQ plus. They instead helping them, they banned their own like videos. And TikTok is a very special thing because that's what we all want, correct? We want the attention. It's just like cryptocurrency. Makes no sense unless we convert it into a real money. So all that being famous part, it also came to know that this is not organic. They had secret buttons. Some engineers decided, and someone maybe told them, or maybe they came up with the idea, what if we have a button here to make anyone famous? And we will click on it randomly. But because I mentioned that cryptocurrencies, I'm sure that's also a pretty hot, hopefully still hot topic to many of you. The early cryptocurrency, it came from money from the panicked people, from the companies and the private citizens who wanted to get their data back, which got encrypted by the criminals. So they tried to pay them money and make sure that they get their real data back. But obviously the technologists, the people around this small region, they understood that this is a good time to jump into the story. And like every other companies, we have stories where a tea company, Long Island Tea, they changed their name to Long Blockchain Corp. Have nothing to do with blockchain, have nothing to do with cryptocurrency. They just changed their name and added the word blockchain into it, and the share prices went up 400%. Because that's how world works, correct? They say blockchain, it must be great. And that's just one part of the story. And there are many people who believe that this cryptocurrency, this will help us to stay out of government's power, correct? That this is something really powerful. Nobody will have access. The old power have no access to that. But then if you try to do that, then you read more and then you see, no. Any country, if they are powerful enough, they can force to take away all those cryptocurrencies, all those magical numbers which you think you own. And those will be taken over by someone else. It never works out that way. And if you don't follow these things, that's a website to regularly check. This screenshot is from yesterday, and up to now, it's over $78 billion lost in various kind of scams and things. Web3 is going great. .com. Please make sure to keep visiting and read the stories. It has all the stories, one after another one, every time it's coming up. So the last one is from April 15th, up to yesterday. I don't know today. But many of you will tell me that cryptocurrencies is the old thing, correct? It's not the new. What's new? What's happening to the world? Okay, no answers. Anyway. Another example where someone went to prison because they lied to us, lied to people, and then finally got caught. And there are many other examples like that. And because every one of you are silent, I will put it up on the screen. What's happening to the technology world? Like how things are changing, how people are moving. The famous term, correct, AI, which will solve all problems. I think most of our jobs will be gone in 6 months, like a couple of years ago. That's still happening. Like you will find enough people. They will come and tell that AI will solve all the problem. That's literally the answer. We just need to find the questions. Like the businesses are trying to come up with the questions, correct? Like this will solve your problems. They're trying it again and again. We know that it's not perfect, correct? We know that it can go wrong in many directions. This is one of the the funnier examples where it doesn't make problem in people's life. I'm not reading it, you can read it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would happen to me too if I was there. But if you look at those big corporations, the people who are claiming to be using this AI or LLM, how are they getting the data? Whose data is this? So from 404 Media, this is the story, which shows that NVIDIA was scrapping a human's lifetime of videos in a single day. It's all the videos we upload everywhere. They were scrapping from across like YouTube, Netflix, everywhere. And you will find enough examples where the big companies are suing each other. Like, no, we should be able to steal others' data. You should not steal my data. They're fighting among each other in courts. They're all talking about like how can we get the more data, more metadata. You remember, it's not only about the data, it's about where you are in that picture. It's about what kind of clothes you are wearing, what kind of phone you are having, what kind of shoes you most probably will buy next day. And they're suing against each other, but there is no report, there is nothing happening to those companies or the people who are breaking our privacy. I wonder, any one of you here heard the name Aaron Swartz before? Okay, a few. For rest of you, Please scan that QR code and or later search that documentary, The Internet's Own Boy. Aaron tried to help us, correct? He tried to download the publicly funded research papers on MIT's open network. And he was pushed so much that he was probably going for 35 years away into a prison. And he committed suicide because that was the pressure, mental pressure on him from the big companies for publicly funded research papers, which he wanted to download and give it away for free. And this is the same person who helped to create Creative Commons, who helped to create RSS, the feed, helped to create a site, small site called Reddit, one of the original authors. Read about him, watch the documentary, please. But that's not the end. I love to use like this language like models, correct? I use Translate like DeepL or Google Translate on my phone, even here to talk to the persons in the hotel who only understood, I think, Russian. So I had to type in English Translate. But I was a little bit worried because you can see what happens when a mistranslation happens and a person lands in prison because his good morning turns into something else. I think a little bit happened too with my Google translation. I mean, just looking at the phrase, because we were into a shop and I was trying to find the trial room for the clothes. And I wrote, where is the trial room? But the security guard's face was totally lit up. And like, what are you talking about? Seeing this message. So I'm sure it's a different trial. The translation happened. I just don't know what was it. That's not enough. This is another example where Mr. Alexander, he asked ChatGPT, who himself is a big scholar about himself, and ChatGPT in this case happily informed when he died, how he died, and the fake hallucination of a news report that he died to him. And that's not happening to him only, correct? It's happening to many of those people who thinks that AI will solve everything. That all this data stolen from people and then being fed into our lives can help us every possible way. If you look into the game industry, you will find that there is continuous fights by the voice actors, that when they work for a gaming company, these days they have to sign off their own voice. So the company owns that voice that moment, and they can use AI and not hire the human force anymore. They want to replace us, the humans, with technologies in this case, in a worst possible way. Any artist here, any field of art, you know your feeling. And when it comes about technologies which can replace the artists, the humans. If that is not enough, there is also a particular website / company, not website in this case, company called Clearview AI. I think it's an Australian company, if I remember correctly, or starting with Australia. They said that they scrapped the whole of internet, all the photos we uploaded, all of our pictures from Facebook, from Flickr, you name the website. And they are giving access to the law enforcement agencies across the world for a lot of money, so that they can use these photos to identify, rather I'll say misidentify people. And you know how it goes when people get misidentified, when this data has been stolen from us, correct? They never took our permission to scan our images. They just stole it from internet. If you want to know more about how things are happening, what are the biases in AI, how things work, here is a fantastic book which came out, Unmasking AI. Please have a read. Intense number of details, and there is also a documentary mentioning or showing Dr. Joy in Netflix called Coded Bias. That's also amazing documentary, and in the book you will have more details about her work in AI as a field, and that's a real scientist, not me. But those are big things, correct? Last year, or I think last year only, Google decided to bring this thing called Gemini Nano on our Android phones, which will help people to identify spam calls. It's so nice, like our elderlies will not have any spam problem. But the security researchers across the world are trying to point out, like, no, that's not how technology works. It will just require a single change in the configuration. to turn that against us, to turn that same software which is listening to all phone calls in our phone, to listen, create an small details out of it, and then send it over to whichever company, organization, government they want to have access. Do you want your private talks to be recorded? Anyone here who are okay that all phone calls are recorded and listened by others? Anyone? Okay. Obviously phones. Now, favorite operating system, Windows. So they also decided to come up with this extremely fancy idea, Recall, where they will start taking screenshots. Anyone heard about Recall before? I can see few hands. I'm not a Windows user, but this is fancy, correct? If the computer decides to keep taking our photos, like screenshots of our screen every 2 seconds and save it in a SQLite database, if I remember correctly, nothing can go wrong, correct? So, but those are engineers, those are people, those are the people and some management who are deciding like, oh, this might be a good idea. And that's where we are supposed to speak up. That's where we are supposed to point out how things can go wrong. And individually, we may not be able to do a lot, but when we work together, we have much more power. We are the people who create these technologies. We are the coders. We are the people who are writing documentation. We are telling people whether something will work or not. This is another example where a thing called Lavender AI, AI system which was built for war, which Israeli military used, and that helped them to identify 37,000 civilians to be marked as target and later most probably get killed. And the military themselves said, oh, it's just a tool for identification. It's not a big deal. But that's the usage of AI. And before this slide, we saw how AI works, correct? Many other slides. So we can imagine how technology works in all these examples. So the Tor project, they wrote a blog post about surveillance as a service, where they pointed out many companies who are providing this kind of technologies which are being used for surveillance across the world. And when a company provides service, remember this, they are selling it, selling a service. There is no guarantee that they will sell only to a certain kind of customer. Whoever pays money can buy a service. That can be a government, that can be a criminal gang, that can be someone super rich, anyone. So if you are interested to know more, there is surveillancewatch.io. Please have a look at this website later on. It contains details about the companies across the world, the companies we figured out who are providing this kind of services. And you can see more details like who are the known customers, who are known targets which got leaked or somehow got identified. There is also another non-profit, Citizen Lab, who are working like very thoroughly, and they are mostly famous for their like one major part of their work is on Pegasus. Anyone here like who all heard about Pegasus? I'm sure a few hands. For rest of you, it's again coming from an Israeli company called NSO. This tool gets into your phone through WhatsApp to messages to many other ways, and then have all the access on your phones. And it's being used across the world. If you go and read in this, like go to citizenlab.ca and search about Pegasus, you will find all the known examples where they found Pegasus on people's phone. And I'm guessing many of you here from like in Europe, I'm not saying only one country, but maybe one like part of Europe. And if you think, oh, that's happening on the other side of the world, last year I gave a different version, a little bit older version of the talk in Poland. And the night before, this story came out that the government figured out that the previous government used it on over 500 of its own citizens. It's the same people who are among us. So it's not like government is made by people. So people can make this kind of decisions and they can buy software to attack others. And what's wrong with using like surveillance? They are only using it against criminals. No, they used it against lawyers, activists, government officials, everyone in the society. And if you want to know how things can go wrong, so Jamal Khashoggi was killed he was a journalist in exile, and they found that his wife's phone, not only his phone, his wife's phone also had the same Pegasus, was used almost at least I think 3 months before the murder. And it's very real, the threat from all these softwares. And that brings into the other group of software, stalkerware. These are the kind of software and hardware which people can use to spy on someone. And most of the time, these are being used by someone in the family, someone who is in control, who wants to be in control of power, and they want to abuse their partners. They use those. And there are a thorough number of companies who are creating and writing only this software. They make money by selling it to the abusive partners so that they can install those software into their partner's phone and track them, abuse them. There are other side uses also. As I mentioned, hardware. Air tags are nice, correct? All these tags, we can find where our keys are. We can find like a lost bag or suitcase. But they can also be used in cases like this, where criminals they are seeing the software or the hardware and then they're using it for their criminal activity. So there is this amazing group of people who are working across the world to stop the stalkerware, stopstalkerware.org. And you will find, if you search about it on internet, you will find a lot of talks from Eva Galperin from EFF about stalkerware and how things work and how they are fighting to stop it. Please have a look. That's also software industry, by the way. That's also people like us. But this is the biggest of those stories, I believe personally. How many of you thought that your phone is listening to you before? We always thought, there was no proof. And then there is this one leak happened where the company is like, oh, use our SDK, and then you can listen to all your customers in your TV, in your phone, and whichever hardware you are building or software you are building. Then you can listen to everything if you use just our SDK. There was no proof before. Now we have one at least, like amazing, like very nice marketing material. And we know that we can do this, you can do this, like anyone can just have access to their SDK and build the applications using those. If that is not enough, people here with robot vacuum cleaners in the house, please raise hand. Let's see. Okay, good numbers. Just one story. This is iRobot in this case. A woman was in toilet and then later she found that her pictures in the toilet was happily shared, which was taken by the Roomba, the robot. I never even knew before that the robots have like cameras pointing upwards, because I thought, no, they're supposed to clean up the floor, not what's happening in the room. But that's false. Most of the vacuum cleaners these days, they have also cameras pointing upwards to make sure they can identify things at the house, because they want to not only know where they are in the house, they want to see what you are doing in the house. They can see the things in the house, so they can sell that information. And I did not use the another slide. I think last year around October, there was another company, such robots got hacked into by people who knows, like from where. But in US, you can search about it. At first, those robots started chasing the pets in the house. And then at least one household, the owner was like, what the heck? And then the robot started shouting back, used all the slang words. And then there was a voice fighting over the vacuum cleaner and the owner of the vacuum cleaner, because someone else has access to the microphone. Like, why do your robot vacuum cleaner has a microphone? I don't know. It's a decision, correct? Some engineer took it somewhere. And that's how things work. If you give an access, if you add a microphone and a camera, people, and oh, here is a web gateway to access all of this, people will find these things. Now suddenly I remembered, there are many other examples I could have added, but timing, one big thing. So if you have backdoors, if you have this kind of software, people will find it, people will use it online. It's internet. I think people here, we know, correct, how technology works somewhat, like a lot of it maybe, or at least small part, and we know how easy it is to make use of it, to do things. And this can have very big effects in people's life. If you like, these are, sometimes it's fun to read, but then we see what's happening in countries like Ukraine. Even before like all the major things happening for the last couple of years, there were other things also going on before now. This is just an example from 2024. A city in the middle of winter, no power, no heating, because there were issues with the software and some people decided to write, in this case from Russia, attack and take out the power and the heating. This can go bad, correct, for the citizens. And we all are the citizens. We all are the same people living in this world. And if this is not enough, and this is just an example, you can say, oh, these are the like the bad hackers, not the normal good real life hackers, the evil people. They are just doing it for that. But technology can be used in every possible way. So here is another example. So at the beginning of the recent war on Ukraine, when Russia took over, I think one of the southern cities, Kherson, after taking over, one of the first goal, they made sure that they take out all the companies which are providing network and internet. They made sure that all the traffic which was directly going to Kiev, they took it over, they moved the network so that it goes through Russia now. I think if you read the reports, it says that it was down for half a night or something. From next day, everything was normal, but not. They reroute the whole traffic through their own servers so that they can control the narrative. So they can do the surveillance, what people are talking about, with whom they are talking. And they stopped allow access to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that, and only Russian state media. Because that's when, if you can control the narrative, if you can control what's happening in social media, you win a big part of people's mind, correct? You can spread misinformation. You can spread fear. And these are, like, this is in mind, it's just a network, correct? You just switch the network. But no, these have bigger effects in our lives. You remember the Holocaust I mentioned at the beginning? The punch cards was used because that's 1940s technology. This is the modern technology. This is what it looks like when we talk about. China is using even DNA to trying to identify that if they are Uyghurs, Muslims in China, so that they can put them into prisons, in camps. There are literal companies who are selling this like technology to be used so that the regimes can use it against its own people or anyone whom they think are not nice for them. So it's happening now in the modern time. If you read the US stories, you will find they are also like now saying that they want to build more and more databases with this kind of information. So, and people from our software industry, many of them who never spoke up before, they are now speaking up like, oh, maybe you want to have a new job instead of helping to build this. Search on it on internet. But again, jumping back into a completely different story. I am from Stockholm, so I'm pretty okay with nice weather. The first day on Sunday when I arrived, it was a little bit warmer. But today is fantastic, nice temperature for me. And there is no other things happening, correct? We are the software people. We do not have any problem, or like we are not affecting anything else in the world, correct? In this way. But if we look at the technologies we build, this is an older screenshot from 2021, a thing called Bitcoin. They used more energy than the country called Argentina, and almost reaching Sweden's energy level. And you can imagine what, and because these are big data centers, correct? End of the day, this is computing power, very simple. It's calculations doing again and again, very fast, and a lot of calculations. And that's the energy which we could have used for something else. That's the energy which also generates a lot of heat, which those data centers have to take care of it. And you might be thinking, oh, that's just power, we can still do it. No. It takes a lot of water too in those places, about resources. Ask anyone where a big, like anyone in a locality where a big data center came up. Ask them about their water usage anywhere in the world. You will hear stories how the local people got affected after the data centers came up. How the data centers are using this natural resources, which are finite, by the way. It's not infinite. It's not a big number in the memory. The big companies, of course, are part of it. Almost every one of them are going to miss their climate emissions declarations, which they happily said, oh, we'll reach by 2030. Nope. And their own researchers, their own people are talking like, we are going nowhere near thanks to this thing called AI, because it's taking away all the computing power, all the energy, all the natural resources available to us. So Timnit Gebru, C and others, they wrote this paper for Google, where they pointed out how working on these big AI and models and things helps only the big corporations, but how this is going to affect across the world the poor people, the people from the poorer countries, how their weather is going to be affected. What was the result? They got fired. But people are fighting back. Like, yes, they got fired from Google, but they created, again, telling people, correct, more people get to know how their own technology is being used. You might think, oh, Kushal is only talking about negative things. How can we fight back? So we have many examples where we, the engineers, we, the developers, the coders, are saying like, no, we don't want our technology to be used, or we don't want to build this. So here is an example where over 200 Google employees who are the part of DeepMind, the AI things for war and other big things, or nasty things, I should say, they decided to fight back. They started writing letters. They started doing campaign within the company about the thing they are building and how that can be used. But you will say like, oh, we are in the Python conference. We want to know more about Python. Like, is there any example in Python? How many of you used a thing called PyPI before? PyPI.org, download, install packages. So PyPI also decided to do the same in the one way, like to fight for the privacy of users. So a couple of years ago, we decided to make sure that no more user IP addresses in the logs. That's a very design question. Do you want those information? As PyPI, like the people who are running PyPI, they don't need it. So they made sure that this privacy stays for the users. So any government, if they come and ask PyPI, PyPI will not be able to give them the IP address of the user who uploaded the package, or like who are downloading or using them. This is from our community, by the way. This is a known decision. It's a choice engineers make. Anyone heard about the company called Mullvad VPN? Some of us. So they are a Swedish, Sweden-based VPN company, and 2023, so it's not last year anymore. It's 2 years ago, 2023. The Swedish police went to their office in Gothenburg and asked to have access to the servers so that they can see logs. And Mullvad, the lawyers and the engineers there, successfully showed the police that their servers, their software is by design, doesn't have any logs. And those servers, if I understand correctly, doesn't even have hard drives. They run on memory, no logs of any user. So if the police comes and takes out the server, it's turned off, no logs, it's just a blank state of a machine. It has nothing. And that's a decision made by the engineers. That's a decision made by the product team. That's a decision made by the salespeople of the company. Like, hey, we want to give that much of privacy to our users. We can build software, we can create things keeping privacy in mind. Remember, there is no nice or powerful backdoor. You create a backdoor, you create special access, people will find it. Here is one more example. The digital wallet in Europe. It's under EU Commission. It's a project where the main implementation is happening as a proper open source way. All the different specs are getting written in IETF and other places right now as we speak. And there are multiple other smaller implementations and I think large-scale pilots, LSP, happening across Europe. And one of the very from the beginning, very major part of this project is about privacy of EU citizens, privacy of European citizens. So a person from here, if they travel to Paris or to Stockholm, and use this digital wallet to prove that they are in perfect age to buy, let's say, alcohol or something else. They should not be able, they don't need to say what's their name, they don't need to prove where they are coming from, they don't need to tell that what's their date of birth. They just need to prove they're above certain age. And the government or the organization who is giving you that credential, they are not supposed to know why are you or where are you using that credential. So those are being possible using this new thing we are coming up, where it's the core feature, using things like selective disclosure, where you can only give part of the information and you can still prove that this is correct. And it's being made or being created in such a way so that the credential issuers will not be able to track and correlate that where that credential is being used. So if I go and use the same credential to buy a coffee machine and then later a shoe, neither of those companies or the group who gave me access to that credential should be able to see that I bought those two things. It's not important. But these things are being developed and tried by people, in this case, across the world. It's an European project, but people, as you can imagine, these are happening in IETF and smaller groups. So engineers across the world are working together on these problems. Another big example, Signal. Who all are using Signal? Do you know about Signal? Few hands. For the rest of you, it's a chatting and video calling, audio calling application. It's a started as a very small non-profit. This also means that rich, evil billionaires cannot buy it over, just like Twitter. We all love or hate that person, correct? Whichever way you want to say, love and hate, however it goes. So those evil billionaires cannot buy it over because it's a non-profit. There are people, actual cryptographers. I'm not a cryptographer. I trust the actual cryptographers who can tell me what to use. I try not to roll my own cryptography. Even WhatsApp did. They took their implementation, Signal's implementation for end-to-end encryption. It's free. You all can use it. Have a look at it, how technology can be built. And they have very small information, by the way. They can tell when you created the account. They can tell anyone asking question, when was the last time you connected to their server. They do not know, they don't have any metadata about your chat, with whom you are chatting, with whom you are talking. They don't have that information. Cell phone number, right now they have it. Along with that which number you use to connect to that. And by the way, there are other open source projects, I think Delta Chat and others, where you really don't need the cell phone number, but it provides a different set of features, and one solution is not for everyone. Everyone has a different threat model, so everyone has to think what kind of applications to use and where. Tor project, I'm wearing a Tor t-shirt here. If you do not know about Tor, it's an open source project along with an US non-profit, where there are more than 7,000 servers across the world, where you can connect using the Tor browser example and have access internet anonymously. This is, by the way, Firefox, and a lot of security features. And nowadays, many of those features are going back into Firefox so that Firefox become more secure. And this is another one example where the software has been written from the beginning, keeping for privacy. And it's an open source project. It's a non-profit. You all can volunteer just like me. I'm not an employee of Tor. I'm a volunteer who is volunteering for Tor. So, see, we have choices. We can build software. We can write code for security and privacy in mind. We can have ethical choices. Ethics is very personal. Ethics and morality, that will depends the behavior, the code of conduct of an individual, of a group, based on religion, as a group, many different ways. It's individual. But as the golden rule says, we all want others also to treat us nicely, the way we should treat others, in the same way. So we can make those decisions and do things for that. With this, I want to end my talk, and I want to thank Anvesha, my friend Micah Lee, Eva Galperin from EFF, And Kiran Jonalagadda Jace, like who went through the previous versions of the slides, helped me a lot of details about this talk. That QR code is supposed to take you to the GitHub wiki page for the talk, where you can find all the notes about the talk, so that all the things I talked about, these are not made up things. These are from the public reports published in newspapers, big organizations. So you can actually go through, find links, and read more about those issues. See, as I said, my goal today to give this talk is to think a little bit more in the world what's happening. It's not about writing that function, make the thing a little bit more faster. It's not always that. It's also important, by the way. Our jobs depending on that. That's how we get paid. But we can think, we can choose what to create. Just because we can create something with technology, it doesn't mean we should create it. That's my message. Maybe we have some time for Q&A, question and answers. Otherwise, I'm here for most of the day. Feel free to ask me any questions related to Python code development, like C Python, Python Software Foundation, open source contribution, any of those topics, or anything you have in mind. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. A big round of applause. And yes, we do have several minutes for questions. So do we have any questions from the public? Yes, over there. Do we have a mic? Yeah, you can shout out. I will try
I'll shout back.
to scream it.
A note and a question. You mentioned shadow control, and I believe this year is rebranded officially to EU Protect, more that support over some national security, that's about children, but denying the angelic. The question is, mentioned social media a lot, if there's identification or malicious practices. So what's your attitude towards metaverse? Because that's one of the possible solutions, maybe.
Okay, so the comment is that I mentioned that chat control, we stopped it thrice. So they are coming back again. So the politicians understood, oh, we should need a different name for it. And the followers of chat control renamed it, rebranded it, and they're trying to bring it again, like with a different name, as the person mentioned, and trying to break end-to-end encryption once again. That's, I think, the fourth attempt, if not wrong, if not at least. And so that's happening, by the way. Please have a look. And the other question was, what's my thoughts about Fediverse, where we can use things like Mastodon or say Pixel Fed instead of Instagram, and we can decide how our messages, how our data will be shared. I love it. I use it. You should use it too. That's might be my comment. Again, it's a personal choice. Please have a look. These are all open source software. There are proper examples of Fediverse applications written in Python. So you can write code. And because these are all open source applications with open protocols, you can write very small Python scripts and do massively fancy things, or you can write your own bot which can do things magical. Thank you for pointing out to Fediverse. Thanks.
Yes, over here.
You look like a big supporter of privacy. Don't you think that an absolute privacy can be a tool or an instrument in malicious hands as well?
Correct. So absolute privacy, one way it's very difficult to achieve. Like technology and our lives, privacy is a very difficult thing, and that's where I believe, and it can also go in the other way. We cannot just say privacy is only for us. It has to be for everyone, and there will be evil people who will reuse it. Correct. And we saw throughout the history, evil come from within. It's just the people, it's just that random neighbor who became later starting a war or become a president of some country. And they can also use or misuse the same privacy for their own benefit. But we have to think, that's where the question about ethics and morality comes in. And we have to think how much it's actually benefiting the world. And that's where we have to use it. That's how we have to use it. Because every time you will see that people are coming to break encryption, they are only point, oh, we want to protect the children. That's the thing, because everyone is like, we want to protect our children. So it's easy to get into our brain saying, we are doing all of this because we want to protect our children. So we want to listen to every phone calls, we want to see every photos you send, and we want to tell you if you're allowed to take this photo or not. Who are we? That's some people working from somewhere.
Yes.
Since you mentioned the accessibility of very beginning of the speech, that basically there was the first idea to deliver some productivity to end users, etc., and then the initiation of the product platform provider. That also goes along with security as a product of anonymity and privacy and security as well. So personally, I find it kind of a struggle to onboard people, my friends, my family, my significant other. This privacy tools, privacy and security, anonymity tools also have to be constructed with end user in mind. It has to be very accessible, very easy to onboard. And what's your take on this?
100% with you. The point is that these tools has to be accessible. We can make something very secure. Like, you know, the best secured computer is the one which never boots. But that totally lost, correct? If the computer doesn't boot, we cannot use it. The same way it goes. That's why Signal is a very great example where it's just like, looks like WhatsApp, because many people use WhatsApp or like Instagram to chat to each other. Look at the tools, or we can help, correct? If the tool is not accessible, we can help them writing patches so that it becomes easier to use. Start at home. There will be friends who will tell you that I have nothing to hide. You can always ask for their Facebook username and password. Start from there. Start asking those questions and show them how things can go wrong. Tell them that use Facebook. That's perfectly okay, but know what's happening. When you share something on Facebook, how bad that can happen. What to share, what not to share. Help teach them those things. Catch me with outside if you are want to chat about more about privacy and tools. I have a lot to say and a lot to demo and talk about. But that's just me. Yeah. Sorry. Question here. It's the same struggle. We all struggle the same way. How to tell privacy? Like our daughter Pi, she is in the crowd today, like 10 years old. If she wants to talk about use Signal to her friends, I know that they never heard of it. Like no, use WhatsApp. Like, why do you don't want to send us the picture? Like, why don't you want to take every picture and put it on internet all the time? So it's a constant battle, and we have to fight that battle, because if we shut down, then we are just there is no one to stop. We have to raise our voice, because we at least understand a bit better, correct? We should not say that we know really well, but we know a little bit better how technology works. So that puts us in a very much privilege. We are those privileged people in the world who are like, no, that's not how computer works. Like, there are a lot of things happening in the background. I mean, that's the only thing. That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm giving this keynote. It's nothing to directly do with Python, but everything. So there's a hand. Two hands, yeah.
One last point that you could have included is live coding. VM will introduce a lot of shitty code with low security, shitty design, and overall will only make things a lot more worse than it already is.
True, vibe coding, correct. But at the same time, I'm sure many of you here looking at the security background, you'll be like dancing, oh, job security in the coming years. The more people will use those, there are more job security for the people. There will be evil side also, like things will go wrong for many people, like sadly. Just to give you a story or a strange thing, I think if I understand correctly, in India, where I'm originally from, I am immortal there. Trust me, because I did not made one particular identity before I left the country. So if I go back and die there, the government will not give me the death certificate. So I am immortal in that way there. But it's a choice. And I try to cramp a too much topic in that 1 hour and still try to keep it as hopefully not insane. You can only tell me later on privately if you don't want to say publicly. So that's the point. There was a hand here, someone.
Yeah.
Yes.
One last question.
So the question is, what's my thoughts about GDPR and the implementation and how things went. So the laws are made with the good intention, correct? End of the day, it's the people who are implementing those in different companies and places. It's on us how much we want to do. There are companies who takes it very, very seriously. And then there are companies who are like, yeah, we'll just show a cookie banner, you know, the famous GDPR cookie. So that's it. And we'll still store everything. Like, who cares? So it totally depends on those people, the choices. It's on us. We have to make that noise like, no, GDPR doesn't mean just this. Security works in both ways. It can be a compliance where it's like 20 checkbox. I'm sure many of you in your experience in the industry, you saw those compliance checkboxes where it says like, oh, use private and like public key pair. But where is the private key? It's out in the website, like that. So it's a double-edged sword. So that's my point.
Good. So yeah, thank you for the questions. Since we still need to have some kind of a break, maybe one last question for the public. Who will be throwing out those robot cleaners after this talk? At least I will consider that's for sure. Good. So thank you, Kushal. Thank you very much for the amazing intro session. Yeah, give a round of applause.